A very good morning, everybody. We are going to learn today organizational communication. Organizational communication is the process by which groups of people convey company goals and the way to reach them. Organization has its own method of communication. We communicate with respect. It is an integral part of effective management practices within the workplace. Productive and thoughtful dialogue can make or break an organization and the relationship between them. Organizational communication is defined as the channels and forms of communication that occur within the organization, such as corporations, non-profits, and governmental bodies. It includes both communications within the organization and public-facing communications. Individuals trained in organizational communication can work in human resources, employee training and management, public relations, marketing, communications, consulting, public affairs, media management, policy, and advocacy, research and instruction, and many other areas. Organizational communication is a broad field that encompasses all forms of communication that allow organizations such as companies, government agencies, and non-profits to function, grow, connect with stakeholders, and contribute to the society. Organizational communication include both internal, such as employee training modules, messaging around an organization mission, interpersonal communication between management and the employees, and professional communication such as emails. It also includes external facing communication such as public relations announcements, press releases, marketing materials, and branding. Talking about the type of communication in organization, communication is a very important part of any organization. It takes place among business entities, within markets, various groups of employees, buyers and sellers, service providers and clients, salesperson and prospective buyers within the organization and within the press. Communication can be integral, external, upward, downward, formal, informal, lateral, interactive, mass, or grapevine. Talking about the internal communication, internal communication takes place within the organization. or group among people within, among different groups of employees, and between employers and the employees. It could be oral or written communication, visual or audio visual, formal or informal, and upward or downward. Internal communication serves to inform, instruct, educate, develop, motivate, persuade, entertain, direct, control, and caution people in the organization. When a personal letter is written at an official address, besides writing the name of the address, the envelope is superscribed, private or confidential to convey the nature of communication. Knowledge skills or goal orientation, sharing of corporate concerns, review and monitoring, performance appraisal, counseling, and training are among the issues that internal communication addresses. Now, when we talk about the external communication, let us have a look to external communication. Unlike internal communication, external communication flows outward. It addresses the people outside the organization, like the prospective customers, competitors, public, press, media, and the government. External communication can take place in various ways and through different channels. Letters, notices, brochures, prospectus, demonstrations, telephone calls, business meetings, press releases, press conferences, audio-visual presentation, publicity, film products, launch events and advertisements are all examples of external communication. It is important to note that the external communication, external agency or person targeted through such communication quite often forms an image or impression based on such communication, and it is therefore very necessary that adequate care is taken in making it clear, intelligible, and appealing. There may be some communication which would move both upward and downward. A typical example of this is performance budgeting, which is a two-way process. It is a top to bottom as well as bottom to top. We have been repeating many times upward and downward communication. Let us know what is upward and downward communication. Large organizations have different hierarchy levels or tiers. Banks, finance companies, insurance business, railways, and such other people oriented organizations have typically a 3-tier or 4-tier structure. The process of communication to be complete and effective should encompass all these levels and tiers. Upward communication is one which moves upward, that is from bottom to top levels in the hierarchy. Any communication that moves from employees to supervisors, supervisors to managers, managers to executives, regional manager to general manager, and so on, may be categorized as upward communication. Similarly, communication from branches to regional officers to zonal officers to head office is referred as an upward communication. Employee suggestions, market reports, performance reports, feedback on new products, and requests for facilities or instructions are all examples of upward communication in the organizational context. Talking about downward communication. Downward communication moves from top to bottom, that is from the CEO downward. It travels through senior executives to junior level functionaries, from the controlling office to the branch, from the head of the division to the head of the unit. Corporate goals, business priorities, motivational letters, work related instructions, newsletters from CEO, general managers, desk are all typical examples of downward communication. There may be some communication which would move both upward and downward. A typical example of this is performance budgeting, which is a two-way process. It is a top to bottom as well as bottom to top exercise. Talking about formal communication, towards ensuring communication on an ongoing basis, organizations develop formal systems, staff meetings, union management meetings, branch managers, conferences, periodic sales review meetings, and customer meets are examples of forums that facilitate formal communication. Formal communication generally follows well-defined hierarchy, pattern, and periodicity. Memos, circulars, instructions, guidelines, clarifications, agreements, and reports are some of the channels that facilitate the flow of formal communication in business organization. Informal communication. This type of communication takes place in an unstructured manner and outside the formal forum. There is an element of spontaneity in the communication. Informal communication works well in smaller, loosely knit organizations. It is used more often in situations where there are no rigid hierarchy tiers. While the formal structure of communication is a must in large organizations, it is the informality that helps sustain goal orienting in small, well-knit units. Informal communication takes place through chats, conversations, informal talks, Lateral communication. Lateral communication generally takes place in an organization and is neither upward or backward or downward. It proceeds in a horizontal manner and takes place among equals and at peer level. It may also be described as peer level communication. Any communication that takes place orally or in writing from one branch head to the other, from one division head to the other, from one group head to the other, may be described as lateral communication. An important point worth nothing in any lateral communication is that there is not much difference in terms of the hierarchical levels or positions of the sender and the receiver. Interactive communication. Interactive communication is essentially a two-way process. It takes place through meetings, conferences, teleconferencing, multimedia presentation, group discussion, and other such active two-way exchanges. Interactive communication is the most appropriate when the message or subject is to be presented at length. Example, in practical sessions, case study discussions, and strategy formulation. When many speakers are involved, there may be a need for a moderator who will facilitate the effect of communication from different speakers. Mass communication. Mass communication is distinctive in a view of scale. Essentially, it addresses a large mass of people. Public speaking, newspapers, magazines, journals, radio, television, .com, etc. are channels of mass communication. Mass communication has developed into a specialized area of study. Each of these areas or channels calls for distinct skills. By its very nature, mass communication addresses a vast, well spread out, and heterogeneous group of people, and such as special efforts will have to be made to sustain their interest and achieve the desired response. At the government level too, there are often a separate ministry or department of mass communication to deal with this functional area. Main branches of study relating to mass communication are public relations, advertising and publicity, journals and digital media. Grapevine. Grapevine is a kind of informal communication that prevails in organizations and business. The source of such communication may not be clear. It's spread by way of gossip and rumors. It travels through formal networks and quite often travels faster than the formal messages. Sometimes it gets more powerful and becomes more receptive than formal communication. The prevalence of this type of communication in an organization has to be recognized and accepted. A skilled communicator can derive benefit from such communication as well. It may not be always possible to control the grapevine, but nevertheless, an able communicator knows how to influence it. Like any other type of communication, this one has its own merits and demerits. In our further chapters, we are going to deal in with employment communication, formal communication in brief, in elaborative, informal communication,